Good evening, my respected teachers and my dear friends. Here I am representing my book review. Hope so you all like this. Thanks for watching this video. Thank you so much.
This is a first slide that represents my name and my student number.
And here is a detail of my book. Its title is Sex, Lies and Pharmaceuticals: How Drug Companies Plan to Profit from Female Sexual Dysfunction, and it is written by two authors. Here is a cover page of my book.
Now come to the introduction. This book is written about the relationship of pharmaceutical companies and medical science, how they are getting together, how they are entangled, and how they are getting effect on our society and public health systems. I have chosen this book because I am from a medical background and I have done work for 1 year as an assistant doctor in a hospital. Therefore, I have seen lots of pharmaceutical representatives, how they come to promote their products and how their promotional strategies affect doctors and evenly force doctors, we can say, to pen down their medications on their prescription pads when the patients actually don't need it. As the word I have written here is marketing. That represents that how the pharmaceutical companies are merging with medical science in order to promote marketing of their products. And the second word of this slide, selling the sickness, represents how corporate sponsored medicalization of ordinary life. This word is from author's another book that is on the same issue. The word I taken from that book, but it suits to this issue too. This book shows us how the corporate world of medicine changes our daily lives ups and downs into symptoms of diseases, and how it leaves unhealthy impacts on community and public health system.
Here is a little bit detail of authors. Ray Moynihan is the main author of the book and Dr. Barbara Mintzes is the co-author. As both are from health background, they well acknowledge the existing issue in a very good way and with lots of evidence.
Now, coming to what the text of book is actually about. It consists of 3 words. First is sex, second is lies, and third is pharmaceuticals. The first word of the book represents the questioning about women's sexuality, how it is considered as a female sexual dysfunction, and how the medicalization of women's sexuality is increasing day by day, and also how it is considered as a female sexual dysfunction, which is really is not a dysfunction but is a normal difficulties of our life. It also represents how the data of 43% of prevalence of this disease is measured and to how much level it is reliable. And the second word of the book, that is lies, represents the misinformation that pharmaceuticals are representing day by day to our society and to doctors. Here is the one example of that. The pharmaceutical companies and doctors shows that 1 in 10 women suffers from disorder of low desire in our community. But actually this data no longer even exists, and it is from a research funded, and this evidence is from research funded by drug company. And the third word, that is pharmaceuticals, is the main arm of corporate world in developing new diseases.
In this picture shows a lady surrounding with a lot of drugs. Now coming on the key points of my book, the first key point I considered is the FSD that all drug companies and doctors are considering is actually a dysfunction or a difficulty. According to this, dysfunction is a state that has biological, physiological causes behind it and consists of four sets of symptoms. And if it is considered as a difficulty, it has different causes behind it, that is social and cultural, relational aspect of a woman with her partner, psychological and emotional factors. On the basis of four features of dysfunction, FSD found highly prevalent, that is 43%, that moves to only 3% when considered as a difficulty. This data of 43% was found by authors Edward O. Lerman and her co-author Rosen in Journal of American Medical Association, that later found to be had financial ties with Pfizer in promoting Viagra for women. Also, Kinsey Institute survey criticized this data and states that women's emotional well-being and her relational aspect with her partner are more important determinants that affect her sexuality rather than other factors. Also, this book mentioned that the surveys, case studies, and diagnostic tools are mostly funded by drug companies. The third chapter of the book explains how woman pleasure is measured by simply measuring the vaginal pulse amplitude. Moreover, there are lots of examples in this book that how drug companies offer expensive trips and gifts to researchers. Now, these are the issues related with social and cultural and public health perspective. These kinds of practices by drug companies in our society labels or stigmatize women with a disease when actually they are not. Moreover, the Marxism theory also applies here, that states healthcare becomes commodified through corporate activity. Also, these kinds of issues are more towards feminine perspective. Pondering upon another point, sex therapist and academic Dr. Leonard Derfir and other experts argued that the definition of FSD is too narrowly focused on problems relating to function but failed to place a woman's sexual problems in the broader context of her life, her relationship, and the wider society and the culture in which she lives. That is the all points of that related to social factors behind the female sexual dysfunction. Analyzing this book, I acknowledge that there were lots of examples and evidence that support author's view, and I really appreciate the language of the book. Moreover, this was author's independent hypothesis without having any financial ties or benefit from anyone. Also, it was very much written towards a social perspective. While on the flip side, funding to a research by a drug company sometimes is actually a need of a researcher. For example, in this book, a Dutch researcher, Ellen Lane, said that she is passionately against the medicalization of women's sexuality, but on the other side, she could not run her lab without expecting research funding. Concluding, all in all, author very well generates the healthier way to define signs of sickness. Also, it's time for social actors to wake up and set the boundaries of human illness. However, the question here that arises in my mind, that drug companies for medicines are informing people when to see their doctors. How much the findings of a researcher are reliable? It's a human nature that the things that are profitable seems to be always positive. And now these are the references of my book. And thanks to everyone.